Hello, welcome to my channel. I'm Puddles. Hi. This is another video in my encounter building series. Part 9, we're talking about reskinning NPCs. I just made a video about using the NPC section of the book, the monster manual, and using that to create encounters that have a variety of different creatures. It's really good for it. Just a note, I am trying to focus on the monster manual right now. I am going to make a video on a couple of Volo's NPCs, but in this video we're just going to show some ideas on how we reskin some magic users, specifically low-level magic users, and there is one from Volo's, just because it is my favorite NPC to use, and I couldn't make this video without having it. So let's just jump in, shall we? Cool. So there are lots of different spellcasters in the NPC section of the monster manual. I've noticed a lot of them are cleric based. There's obviously one druid, and there's a lot of higher level wizardy necromancer stuff, and no warlocks. They sort of fixed that in Volo's. But I particularly love this creature. So the Apprentice Wizard is in Volo's. It's a CR 4 1/4 creature, I believe. Don't quote me on that. And it's just a super low level wizard. It's amazing. It is. You can use it as like a big bad boss for a few of your first encounters. You can use them as little minions for big fighters later on. You can use them as just backline people in an encounter. It's so flexible. It's amazing. I'm also going to talk about changing spells, things like that, abilities, so that they are more like the creatures that you're skinning them as, which the monster manual does talk about if you haven't read it. But I'll just go through some things that I do. So the first one we have the Apprentice Wizard. I have reflavored it to the Lizard Wizard. I've used this in my campaigns. It's just a smaller wizard that, instead of using its big brawn and strength to swing clubs into faces, it has innate magical abilities that it uses to spit acid in people's faces. So to reskin this into a Lizard Wizard, there are a few things that I changed. So Firebolt, I just got rid of that and I swapped it with Acid Splash. It made more sense to me that a lizard would use that instead. You could maybe use Poison Spray or something like that. I got rid of Disguise Self, because I'm saying that this is like a part of a tribe in the forest. They don't really see other humanoids that often, and when they do, they just kill them and eat them. So I gave it Grease instead of Disguise Self. Which for me made sense. I changed it from a wizard to a sorcerer, so I just swapped the int stat and the charisma stat, and then made the spellcasting from charisma, and that's all the changes I made. And it might seem like a lot to change so much for just one little NPC, but once you've done it a few times, you really get a feel for it, and it's quite a quick process once you know what you're doing. And this is just an example of things that you guys could do. I also like to include like a logical narrative of why the creature is what it is. Like, normally lizard people are big and like usually a little dumber and really strong, but narratively I've made it that there's a member of a weaker subservient species of lizard folk. And occasionally one of these weaker lizard folk, which are usually like manual laborers or slaves, is born with magical abilities. And then you can throw them into your encounter and you have a lizard wizard. And I've used this with like goblins, I've used this with orcs. It's just a really nice like magic user at low levels, because it has 2 first level spells, two, I don't know where that goes, and then a couple of cantrips. So it's just, I really like using the Apprentice Wizard as a reskinning Okay, so that's that one. Next, oh, and also here's just an example of a combat encounter that you could have. So you could have a giant lizard with a couple of lizard folk. One of them has a pet flying snake, and then you've got your lizard wizard in the back shooting them with his acid spit. Yeah. Next, we have the Goblin Shrieker. So this is based off of an acolyte, which I think is also a CR quarter creature. You will notice that they're not very, like 9 hit points and 10 armor. They're not very strong. They're supposed to be in the back lines. And it is a cleric. It is a caster. So I've changed a few things with this one. I removed Sacred Flame and replaced it with Firebolt. Now that doesn't really seem right because clerics don't have the Firebolt cantrip, but these are my creatures. I can do whatever the hell I want, you know? I'm not, as long as the things you really need to worry about when you're changing things like this is AC. If you're increasing the AC on something, it really does make it a lot harder to kill. Giving it health sometimes isn't as efficient as giving it AC. That's more important at higher AC stuff. Like the difference between 10 AC and 12 AC is not really going to do that much. But just when you're fiddling with these things, just do think about how it might play in your battle, because you could give them a spell that just is going to make them twice as strong as they would be normally, and it will completely screw up the CR rating. So just keep that in mind. But again, once you've done this a few times, you really will get a feel for it, and it'll be sweet. Okay, so I've removed Sacred Flame and gave Firebolt just because I wanted it to be more. I just wanted to do that. I thought it would be better for the Goblin Shrieker. I removed Light, the cantrip. They're goblins. They can see in the dark. Why would they have light? I removed Sanctuary and I gave them Shield of Faith instead. So if we go to our little combat thing, we have a bunch of goblins, a couple of wolves, a leader goblin, and then the Shrieker. So the Shrieker can heal, he can bless, and he can cast Shield of Faith. So he's probably going to Shield of Faith the big goblin, making him stronger. And he's going to bless and heal and all that sort of stuff. It just gives another dynamic, because normally goblins, you kill one and it's dead, and it's got, like, usually you kill it with one hit or 2 hits, but then his friend comes up and heals him and then he attacks. So it's just something different. And Acolyte is also a pretty good one to reskin. You can have a few of them in a fight and it won't really make it broken. Yeah, and in terms of like the narrative for this, I just said that sometimes particularly obnoxious and loud goblins can be blessed with the power of Maglubiet and become a Shrieker. As long as they use their expertise in shouting to teach other goblins to fear their patron, they're given divine magics. And I spelled given wrong. Good work, Ben. Yeah, so that's the Goblin Shrieker. Next, we have the Druid flavor. We have a Null Snout Shifter. So I removed a lot of things for this one and added a lot of things. So I got rid of Druidcraft, got rid of Thunderwave, got rid of Longstrider, got rid of Animal Messenger, and got rid of Barkskin. Then I added Dancing Lights, Jump, Fog Cloud, Pass Without a Trace, and Locate Animals or Plants. Just because I thought those were things that a Null might want or use. I also gave that Rampage because Nulls have that. And I would, depending on your encounter, I would give a Null the ability to turn into a hyena or a giant hyena. At higher levels, like giant hyenas are very strong and normal hyena is very weak. So at higher levels, you could turn him into a giant hyena. At lower levels, a hyena, which isn't something that druids can normally do. But you can play around with these things as long as you really do think about whether it's going to break your encounter and your players are just going to die. But yeah, so I reskinned it. It's just got the same stats, the same equipment, the same health, the same AC. I just swapped out the spells, and I gave him perhaps an ability to turn into an animal. In terms of the narrative, I've gone in the direction of the destructive force of nature has taken the form in the Snout Shifter. Death must make a path for new growth to take, and the snout shifter's powers, along with the other gnolls, clear its path. So it's like the fire in the forest that kills everything so that new plants can grow. The nature powers have empowered this gnoll to go and slaughter and kill so that new life may come from the ashes, which is cool, I suppose. But yeah, with magic NPCs, I wouldn't focus too much on when you're changing things up. I wouldn't focus on abilities. I would just change spells and make them to fit with either what you want in the combat or what you think those creatures would cast. And it's like I said, the more you do it, the easier it is and the quicker it is. These 3 here took me like 5 minutes to come up with. So yeah, once you do a lot, you'll get better at it. That's that for this video. I'm going to make another video on reskinning some fighting classes from the monster manual, and then I'll make a video on Volo's ones. So yeah, I hope this has been useful, and if anyone wants to use any of these creatures, they're more than welcome. And I hope it's been informative. Thanks.